Welcome to Real Deal. I'm Tara.
And I'm Jazelle.
And this week we are talking about George Miller's 2024 release, Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. If you guys are not familiar with the Mad Max franchise, it takes place in like a desert wasteland a bunch of years after civilization has fallen. There is a lack of resources, lack of water, lack of food. That's just to kind of give you an idea of the world that we're looking at here. We'll tell you a little bit about the plot, and then we'll get into our thoughts on the film.
Yeah, so the plot on Letterboxd says, as the world fell, young Furiosa is snatched from the green place of many mothers and falls into the hands of the great biker horde led by the warlord Dementus. Sweeping through the wasteland, they come across the citadel presided over the Immortan Joe. While the two tyrants war for dominance, Furiosa must survive many trials as she puts together the means to find her way home.
This movie stars Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa, Chris Hemsworth as Dementus, Tom Burke as Praetorian Jack. I think those are... Oh, Charlie Fraser, who I really want to shout out because she really takes the cake for me in the first, 15 minutes of the movie as Furiosa's mother.
Yeah.
Those are the most leading names in this film that I feel like most people would be familiar with. Tell me about your viewing experience.
Yeah, so I actually just watched this movie last night, and it was just me and one other guy. So that was interesting. I did see a late night showing, though. I saw it at 9.
Brave.
Yeah, and it is a 2.5 hour movie, so just be mindful of that when you go and see it.
Yeah. I went to see this the day that it came out. I think the Thursday of the premiere, the early day showing. And I had a pretty packed theater, I will say, which was kind of exciting. I really love, it makes me feel like movies are so back when I get to see a movie in a theater full of people. So I watched Mad Max for the first time much earlier this year in preparation for this release. So I was excited. I will say that Mad Max, I didn't really get the first time I watched it. I didn't hate it, but I was like, okay, I'm not sure if the way that this is filmed and, I'm not sure all of this is for me. And then the second watch, I was like, okay, I'm fucking with it. That was cool. Yeah. That was fun. This was vastly different. I think sequels can be a dangerous game.
Mm-hmm. I definitely was a fan of the Mad Max franchise before I watched this, and particularly Mad Max Fury Road. I loved Nicholas Hoult as one of the war boys, and I feel like that movie, it really set the scene for the Mad Max George Miller style for me, and the pacing in that movie was really good, and I just loved that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed Mad Max that second watch, and I think I will say, just as a precursor, that Jazelle and I had a very good conversation about Furiosa after she watched it, because my review initially was about 4 stars.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was relatively high. It was 4.5. I was juiced. I was like, oh, this was exciting. That was good. That was fun. But I don't think I was thinking much more than that until after our conversation. So I will talk about my new score kind of at the end of the episode.
Okay. Let's talk about the things we liked about the movie.
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth was so good.
Yeah. This is Chris Hemsworth at his absolute best, I think. I cannot wait to see him in roles that really are so dynamic like this. Do I hate the nose prosthetic? Yes, I do.
I liked it. And the fake teeth.
I didn't notice the teeth.
He had some fake teeth going on.
Was veneer deal?
Yeah, and he had talking like that.
Oh, that's right. I think I just assumed that everybody has veneers if they've been in Hollywood. Yeah. So I think I didn't think anything of it. But I will notice next time I watch. Yeah, I loved Chris Hemsworth. I loved, what did I say? Charlie Fraser, I think that's what I said her name was in the beginning of the movie. And I think it's crazy that her only other acting credit is in Anyone But You as the opposite.
That is crazy.
The opposite love interest.
Okay.
I was like, okay, slay. I love that for her because she really stole the show. Something I found really interesting is that they did kind of CGI work on the actress who plays young Furiosa, because in reality she looks nothing like Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy has a very particular look.
Yeah, well, that kid looked nothing like her, but that CGI that they did was really crazy to really kind of make her look like a fuse of her and Charlize Theron, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
I feel like I always say her name wrong.
Yeah.
But those are things I enjoyed. I thought that it was visually stunning, visually appealing, but I think that that's very typical of George Miller, very typical of Mad Max. That wasn't anything different, I feel like. But those are some things that I enjoyed. I liked Anya Taylor-Joy's performance. I think that Chris Hemsworth absolutely steals the show, though. But I still liked it.
Yeah. I do agree. I think that, again, like echoing off what you said, this is Chris Hemsworth at his best. And I think in roles like playing Thor, you do get to see this really humorous side of his acting. And I feel like this really gripped onto that. I feel like this is almost like gives me the same vibe that Mark Ruffalo gave me in Poor Things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had the same, like, charisma and mannerisms. All of his little mannerisms, his facial mannerisms were so, like, on point. And he really gave me, like, a character that was just, like, insufferable and really fun and humorous to watch. Every time that he was on screen, I was like, oh, thank God. Like, this feels so good. And I, of course, appreciated George Miller's style. I think that his style in this movie franchise is unlike anything else that is out there. The costuming was amazing. The makeup was amazing. Just like a beautiful movie. I loved the frame rate. I love when they, I feel like something that I appreciate about this movie is it's in the desert, but it doesn't make you feel like you're watching the desert.
Yeah.
And I liked that. And that's what I didn't like about Dune.
It is very much like...
Yeah, it feels very, like, almost, like, visually monotonous. And this didn't feel like that. This gave you, like, interest. And, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I also kind of liked Praetorian Jack.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Burke's character was really interesting, I thought. I liked that he was a grounded character. I do think that maybe his character was a little bit unnecessary, but that's a neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Anyways, on to what you didn't like.
The first... Well, not first watch.
Well, yeah, let's talk about your first watch. What did you think it was missing anything the first time you watched it?
I think it included too much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was kind of what kept me at that 4 and not 5, is that it's like that conversation we had prior to this where it's like not every movie needs to be 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I hate to sound like every, award show host in the last 2 years who bags on long movies, because I love a long movie, but I don't think that this needed to be that long. I don't think the story you're telling here needed to be that long. We spend a lot of time with young Furiosa, and I think that that's wonderful for world building, and I think that that's great. But I definitely think that there was scenes that we kind of just didn't need. And I do understand, with Furiosa, I understand what we set up there where there's a reason as to why she's never talking. She doesn't want to be found.
Mm-hmm.
But I did find it interesting reading articles where Anya says herself that she really struggled to understand the directorial decision to kind of never give Furiosa that many lines. And I think that scene she has where she screams, she said that she really had to fight just to have that in the film. And I wish that female rage was something that was kind of allowed. It feels very restricted in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my first watch, I was just like, wow, that was so like, I really liked how they wrapped it up at the end. I think that did it for me, was the full circle back to like the flashback scenes of Mad Max. I really enjoyed, and just a really good origin story. I did think that they made it a bit obvious, like what would happen to her arm, the whole, she's got the map on it, and you're like, okay, well, that bitch doesn't get back home in Mad Max, so she's not gonna go keep the arm, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then after talking about it, did you change those opinions at all?
Well, I think it overemphasized to me how long the movie was. I was like, wow, that really was long. It was a long time.
Yeah, because Tara was like she texted me when I went into the movie, and she was texting me kind of throughout it, and then when I left, and she was like, damn, you fucking did a life sentence in there.
No, it felt like a jail sentence waiting for Jazelle to get out. I was like, oh my God, I've aged. I'm about to stand outside the prison with like the brand new iPhone. Like, this is I'm gonna have to teach her how to use that. It's been so damn long.
Yeah, it was really long. And this gets into like my main issues with this movie, which, number one, I do think it's way too long. For this sort of franchise movie, I wish, if anything, if they wanted to make it that long, they would have at least done it in 2 parts. I can respect a 2-parter.
I can, because you know your limits. I understand what you're doing.
Right, exactly.
It's giving cash grab, but also you know your limits. And
right.
I respect that.
And I think the other thing with that, too, is you can include everything that you want to put in there. You can include everything necessary. You can include frivolous bullshit, because you get like 2 hours per movie pretty much.
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like 2.5 hours, it's really 30 minutes that feels so unnecessary. And for me, that's at the beginning of the movie. It feels a little bit dragged out. The whole time I was thinking, like, I wish it would have just ended here. I wish it would have just, like, cut this, cut that. And, like, obviously he made those directorial decisions to keep all of those scenes, and I feel like I wish maybe he didn't. And I think part of that also goes in, for me, into this main problem that I have with this movie, which is for how long it is. I feel like I didn't know who Furiosa is.
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time world building and not a lot of time doing much to do with her character. It's very clear that she's driven by hatred and revenge, and it's like, okay, you've definitely driven that home, but what else is there?
Right. Like, I had mentioned in my Letterboxd review that there are a couple tender moments with Furiosa, and those moments are literal seconds. Mm-hmm. Like, her being very, like, open with Praetorial Jack about, like, her home and how she just wants to get back there, and those little intimate moments I feel like are so fleeting, and maybe it's intentional, but it made me like not very interested in her as a character, and personally made me feel detached from her as a character.
Yeah.
And considering this movie is about her, I wish it didn't make me feel that way.
Yeah.
And then also the other thing too about her being so, I don't know, like, it's almost like she was, this character was, like, rushed, it feels like, throughout the middle to end. Like, then that's where all the build is, and then the development. And I feel like it just is all based off of, like, I think what I said, like, one traumatic event that happens to her, and, like, that's her defining personality. And while I get that, like, I just didn't feel connected. And I didn't appreciate the like, weak-ass love story in this. I felt like that was just, like, unnecessary. I don't know.
I think I feel the same way, and I think my mind would have changed if we had spent a little bit more time with them. Mm-hmm. But he's like, I'll teach you everything you need to know about Road War. And then he's like, okay, well, you've learned everything you need to know about Road War. And I was like, damn, what was that, like 3 minutes? But we spent like 40 minutes watching her as a child, and like an extra 30 to 40 watching scenes that she's not even in. Mm-hmm. And I think, I'm sure it's like, okay, well, you guys don't want her to have a love story, but you also don't want to just see her be mad. So what is it? What I would have liked is a little bit more time around the wives, because that is obviously such a driving force of Mad Max, Fury Road. I would have loved to see some development there, why that becomes so important to her. And yes, you can see it in her story that she really wants to take these women and, bring them somewhere that is safe. And I love that. I think it's great. But I think we could have focused more on it, because it is so much time not being spent with Furiosa, and this is her movie.
Yeah. And I think that moving into that, it feels like a lot of the feminine tropes that she's given feel so, like, almost laughable to me. Like the celestial tattoo in one scene, like, she doesn't have a corset on towards the end when she loses her arm. She, like, magically appears with the corset on. Like, the shaved head scene felt corny to me. Like, she built a prosthetic arm in 10 seconds. I was just like, what is happening? Like, where is this coming from?
I'll give her the arm. I'll give her that.
I'll give her that one thing. I'll give her the fucking arm.
I'm gonna give her that one thing.
But I was just like, I don't know. And also, for Furiosa being this main character, I feel like her character design was so boring. Compared to every single other character in this movie, they could have done something really fucking cool with her. They could have given her, like, cool costume, cool makeup, cool hair. There was really, like, nothing visually, like, interesting about her. And every single other male character has that. Every important character in this, like, not even important character, just, like, every other literal other character, like that medicine guy, or even just, like, the minor characters, even those, like, wives, I feel like they had their own very distinct styles and their own little, like, toga robe dresses.
Yeah.
And she had really none. And I just wish they would have, like, honed in on that a little bit more and given her a little bit more personality. Aside from that, like, that's really everything I have to say. I just wish that they would have taken a little bit more time with Furiosa as a character.
I agree. I think something else I did want to mention was how interesting some of the biblical references were. That I kind of appreciated. I think the beginning where it's very much like Adam and Eve and this, paradise that they're in with the apple grabbing, and then all of the way to the end, where she is growing the tree back out of him. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was satisfied with the ending. I do really enjoy when Dementus is like, do you have it in you to make it epic? I was like, oh, okay.
I loved that scene.
Nacho gave the best line in the movie to the male character. Okay. Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever. I'll take it. I really enjoyed the ending. I think that was the best part of it, was that last 30 or so minutes.
Yeah, I agree. That's where the movie is really made.
Yeah. I don't know. I think now my review, after kind of thinking on it and sitting on it and giving it some time, is a good 3. I think I'm sitting at a 3.
Yeah. If I have to give it a technical score, I would give it like a 2.8. But
that's crazy. Damn.
But I gave it on Letterboxd a 2.5 because I did feel the same way I did about Dune.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, fuck, like, I just wish you would have given me a little bit more personality.
Yeah. Give me something.
Yeah.
Go, girl, give us nothing.
She kind of didn't give me anything.
I feel like she tried. What I think is, again,
she did.
Those interviews where she's been asked about the process of recording this movie, of being in it, and she's like, don't ask me. Like, ask me in a few years. Like, it's been so traumatic to her that she's not ready to talk yet about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those interviews. I'll probably have to watch them.
Yeah, she, like, cries. Like,
really?
She's really... Yeah, she, like, will not speak on her experience, like, filming this movie. And everyone has said that George Miller is a great person. It's just, as a director, he can make his actors and actresses feel really lost and really stressed and really upset. And I read a lot of the background on the actors from Fury Road, where they felt the same way, where you're just showing up day after day and you're exhausted and it's hot and you don't know what's going on. And he's not telling you what's going on. And he's like, well, it's part of the movie, for you to not know. But that has to be frustrating. And all of the actors and actresses that have worked with him in Mad Max movies have said the same thing, that he's great, but it is emotionally taxing. Mm-hmm. And she said that this is like one of the hardest movies she's ever worked on. Wow. And that she's not ready to fully talk about how it's affected her. And I'm like, damn, that's crazy.
That is crazy.
That's crazy. I think we took so much autonomy from Furiosa, George Miller has, and in his decisions, and I can't. That's probably really frustrating as an actress.
I'm sure.
We feel it here as audience members.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. It felt a little bit more reserved than I felt that maybe they wanted.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I think you guys should go out and see it and let us know what you think. How does it compare as a sequel? Sequels are always really tough. So all the Mad Max fans out there, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.